Whispered Wonder Tales, a children's audio drama channel. Moonberry Forest, the Bridge of Broken Promises. There had always been a bridge in the Moonberry Forest, as long as anyone could remember. Perhaps even longer. It arched gracefully over the singing stream, connecting the eastern meadow where the wildflowers grew to the western grove where the oldest, wisest trees stood. The bridge was made of smooth, honey-colored wood that seemed to glow in the sunlight, with railings carved with beautiful patterns of leaves and vines that twisted together like clasped hands. Everyone used the bridge. The rabbits hopped across it on their way to the clover fields. The deer stepped carefully over it when they visited the cool grove to rest in summer. Even Nimbus the dragon, though he could easily fly over the stream, preferred to walk across the bridge because he loved the way it hummed softly under his weight, as if welcoming him. But one Thursday morning, Thursdays were usually promised days in the forest. When creatures kept the commitments they'd made to one another, something terrible happened. Nella and Lumo were floating across the bridge. On their way to help the morning glories practice their daily opening, some of them were still quite shy when they felt it, a shudder, a tremble, a deep, unsettling groan that seemed to come from the bridge's very heart. "Did you feel that?" Nella whispered, her eyes shifting to that worried purple color as she gripped the railing for balance. Before Lumo could answer, there was a sharp crack. One of the wooden planks beneath them split down the middle, and a piece of the carved railing crumbled away like stale bread, falling into the stream below with a sad little splash. "The bridge!" Lumo gasped. "It's falling apart." They flew quickly to solid ground and turned back to look at the bridge with dismay. Now that they were really paying attention, they could see that the beautiful structure was in terrible condition. Planks were splintered and loose. The railings sagged in places. The whole bridge seemed to lean slightly to one side, as if it were too tired to stand up straight any more. Mrs. Rabbit came hopping up, her whiskers twitching with concern. "Oh dear, oh dear. The bridge has been making those awful noises for days now. I've been too frightened to cross it. I had to wade through the stream this morning, and my paws are still all pruny." "But it's always been so strong," Nella said, confused. "What could have happened to it?" That's when they heard a voice, soft and creaky, like old wood settling. "The promises," the bridge whispered, its voice barely audible over the babbling of the stream. "The promises are breaking." Nella and Lumo exchanged startled glances. The bridge could talk? "I didn't know bridges could speak," Lumo said, floating closer but keeping a safe distance from the sagging structure. "Most bridges can't," the bridge said with a tired sigh. "But I'm not just any bridge. I was built from the promise wood, trees that grew from seeds planted with solemn vows. My very boards are woven together with the promises the forest creatures make to one another. When promises are kept, I stay strong. But when they're broken..." Another terrible crack split the morning air. A second plank splintered and fell away. "When they're broken," the bridge continued weakly, "I fall apart." Nella felt her heart clench with worry. How many promises have been broken? "Too many," the bridge said sadly. "And they keep breaking, day after day." I don't think I can hold on much longer. This was serious. Without the bridge, the forest would be divided. The eastern and western sides would be separated, and the creatures who depended on crossing the stream would have to find dangerous alternate routes, or give up visiting their friends altogether. We have to help, Lumo said firmly, his autumn leaf wings catching the morning light with determination. But how do we fix broken promises? That, said a wise, deep voice from the western grove, is a question worth asking. It was Elder Oak, the oldest and wisest tree in the entire forest. Her branches reached so high they seemed to touch the clouds, and her roots ran so deep they remembered songs from before anyone's grandparents were born. Elder Oak, Nella called up to the ancient tree. Do you know what's happening to the bridge? I do, Elder Oak said, her leaves rustling with a sound like thoughtful humming. The bridge is woven with the promises of this forest. But lately, I've noticed something troubling. The creatures have been making promises carelessly, saying words they don't truly mean, and then forgetting them just as quickly. But surely not everyone. Lumo protested. The forest creatures are kind and good-hearted. Kind and good-hearted, yes, Elder Oak agreed. But even good-hearted creatures can be careless with their words. Come, let me show you. The ancient tree's branches swayed, and suddenly Nella and Lumo could see something extraordinary. The bridge began to glow softly, and they could see threads of light woven through its structure, some bright and strong, others dim and fraying, and still others completely broken, leaving dark gaps in the wood. Each thread is a promise, Elder Oak explained. Watch. As they watched, a young squirrel scampered up to his friend near the bridge. I promise I'll help you gather acorns tomorrow, he said cheerfully, then ran off to play, already forgetting his words by the time he reached the nearest tree. Thread in the bridge flickered and grew dim. A robin called to her neighbor. I promise I'll watch your nest while you find breakfast. But when the time came, she got distracted by a particularly interesting worm and forgot entirely. Another thread dimmed and began to fray. Rabbit promised to share his clover patch, then decided he was too hungry and ate it all himself. A deer promised to keep a secret, then gossiped about it to everyone she met. A mouse promised to return a borrowed acorn, then lost it and never mentioned it again. With each broken promise, more threads dimmed, frayed, or snapped entirely. The bridge groaned and sagged lower. Oh no, Nella whispered, her heart heavy with understanding. They don't mean to break their promises. They just don't realize how much their words matter. Exactly, Elder Oak said gently. Promises are like seeds, little ones. When you plant them carefully and tend them with care, they grow into something beautiful and strong. But when you scatter them carelessly, without thinking, they wither before they can take root. Lumo's wings drooped with sadness. How do we fix this? How do we make everyone understand? We start, Elder Oak said, by helping them see what their broken promises have cost. And then we teach them something just as important, that broken promises can be mended, but only with honesty, apology, and sincere effort to make things right. And so Nella and Lumo set out on their most important mission yet. They gathered all the forest creatures at the bridge. Every rabbit, every bird, every deer, every mouse, every buzzing bee, and even Nimbus the dragon, who settled his enormous bulk as gently as he could on the eastern meadowside. "Friends," Nella said, her voice carrying clearly through the morning air, "our bridge is dying, and it's because of broken promises." A shocked murmur rippled through the crowd. "But we're careful with our promises," Mrs. Squirrel protested. "Are you?" Lumo asked gently. He gestured to the bridge, where the threads were now visible to everyone, glowing in the morning light. "Look closely. Each of you will see your own promises there, the bright ones you've kept, and the dim or broken ones you've forgotten." One by one, the creatures looked, and one by one, their faces fell with recognition and shame. The young squirrel saw the promise he'd made to help gather acorns, a promise he'd forgotten the moment he'd spoken it. The robin saw her promise to watch her neighbor's nest. The rabbit saw his promise to share the clover. The deer saw her promise to keep a secret. "I didn't mean to break it," the young squirrel said, his voice small and ashamed. I forgot. I didn't think it mattered that much." "But it does matter," the bridge said weakly, its voice barely a whisper now. "Every promise matters. When you say 'I promise,' you're asking someone to trust you. You're asking them to believe your words and build their plans around them. When you break that promise, even a small one, you crack that trust. And when enough trust is cracked," the bridge shuddered and sagged even lower. Several more planks splintered and fell. "We're so sorry," several creatures cried at once. "We didn't know. We didn't understand." "I know," the bridge said gently. "Most broken promises don't come from cruelty. They come from carelessness, from saying yes too quickly without thinking about whether we can really follow through, from making promises to be polite or to avoid disappointment, even when we're not sure we can keep them." Nimbus the dragon spoke up, his deep voice thoughtful. "So what do we do now? The promises are already broken. Can they be fixed?" Elder Oak's branches rustled with approval at the question. "That, dear Nimbus, is the second lesson. Broken promises can't be unbroken. What's done is done. But they can be mended. It requires three things: honesty, apology, and action." "Honesty," Nella explained, floating higher so everyone could see her, "means admitting what we've done. Not making excuses or pretending it didn't matter." "Apology," Lumo added, "means genuinely saying we're sorry and showing that we understand how our broken promise affected someone else." "And action," Elder Oak finished, "means doing what we can to make things right and being more careful with our promises in the future." The young squirrel stepped forward, his tiny paws trembling. "I promised to help you gather acorns," he said to his friend, his voice sincere. "I forgot because I got distracted by playing. I'm sorry I let you down. Tomorrow, I'll really help you, and I'll even bring an extra basket to make up for today. And from now on, I won't promise things unless I'm really, truly sure I can do them." As he spoke, something magical happened. The dim thread that represented his broken promise began to glow again, not as bright as if it had never been broken, but with a different kind of light, a light that showed it had been mended with honesty and care. The bridge seemed to breathe a little easier. Encouraged, the robin spoke next. "I promised to watch your nest, and then I got distracted and forgot. I'm so sorry. You trusted me with something precious, and I let you down. From now on, I'll only promise to help when I know I can really pay attention." Another thread glowed with mended light. One by one, the creatures came forward. Some apologized for broken promises from that week. Others, inspired by the honesty around them, apologized for promises they'd broken months or even years ago, promises they'd been too ashamed to acknowledge. Each sincere apology, each genuine commitment to do better, caused another thread to glow with that special mended light. But then came a harder moment. A young deer named Fawn stepped forward to apologize to her friend for breaking a promise. But her friend, a rabbit named Clover, turned away, her fluffy tail twitching with hurt. "You promised to meet me at the meadow 3 times, Clover said, her voice tight with pain. 3 times, and 3 times you forgot. Each time, I waited and waited, wondering if I wasn't important enough for you to remember." "I know," Fawn said, tears gathering in her large brown eyes. "I'm so sorry. I got busy with other things, and I didn't think about how it would make you feel. I hurt you, and I'm truly sorry." But Clover still didn't turn around. "How do I know you'll really be different? How do I know this isn't just another empty promise?" The crowd fell silent. This was the hardest part. Forgiveness didn't come automatically, even when an apology was sincere. Elder Oak spoke gently. "Clover, Fawn has been honest and apologized sincerely. But you're right to feel hurt, and you're right to wonder if things will be different. Forgiveness doesn't mean pretending the hurt didn't happen. It means deciding to give trust another chance, even though it's scary. But what if she breaks another promise?" Clover asked, her voice small and frightened. "Then that would hurt again," Nella said softly, floating down to settle near the young rabbit. "And you would have every right to protect yourself, and maybe not trust so easily next time. But forgiveness isn't for the person who hurt you. It's for you. It's choosing not to carry the heavy weight of hurt and anger everywhere you go." Clover was quiet for a long moment. Then, slowly, she turned around to face Fawn. "I'm still hurt," she said honestly, "and it might take me a while to trust you completely again. But I can see that you're really sorry, and I know you're trying. So, I forgive you. But please, Fawn, if you're not sure you can keep a promise, just tell me the truth. I'd rather be disappointed once than have hope broken 3 times." "I will," Fawn promised, and this time her voice carried the weight of real commitment. "I'll be honest when I'm not sure, instead of promising and failing. Thank you for giving me another chance." The thread between them glowed, not perfectly bright, but healing, mending, growing stronger with each honest word. As the morning wore on, more promises were acknowledged and mended. Some forgiveness came quickly and easily. Some took longer, with creatures needing time to process their hurt before they could offer trust again. An elder oak assured them that this was okay, that forgiveness, like healing, happened at its own pace and couldn't be rushed. But with each honest conversation, each sincere apology, each act of forgiveness, the bridge grew stronger. By midday, the transformation was remarkable. The bridge no longer sagged or groaned. The splintered planks had knitted themselves back together. The railings stood straight and strong, their carved patterns seeming more beautiful than ever, especially now that some of the threads glowed with that special mended light, creating a pattern of both kept promises and healed ones. "It's more beautiful now than it was before," Lumo said with wonder, floating along the railing to examine the intricate pattern of light. "That's because it tells a truer story," Elder Oak said wisely. "A bridge held together only by perfectly kept promises is beautiful, yes. But a bridge that also holds mended promises, promises broken and then repaired with honesty and care, that bridge is stronger, because it knows not just the strength of perfection, but the resilience of redemption." The bridge hummed with contentment, its voice stronger now and full of warmth. "Thank you," it said to all the gathered creatures. "Thank you for seeing that your words have power. Thank you for learning that promises should be made carefully and kept faithfully. And thank you for learning that when we fail, as we all sometimes will, the path forward is through honesty, apology, and genuine effort to do better." Nimbus the dragon stepped carefully onto the bridge, testing its strength. It held him easily, humming a deep, resonant note that sounded almost like a song of welcome. "I learned something today," Nimbus said thoughtfully. "I used to think that trustworthy people were the ones who never broke a promise. But now I see that truly trustworthy people are the ones who take promises seriously, who admit when they fail, who apologize sincerely, and who work to make things right. And," added Mrs. Rabbit, who had been listening quietly throughout, "truly forgiving people are the ones who can accept sincere apologies without holding grudges forever, even when they have every right to be hurt." From that day forward, the culture of promise-making in the Moonberry forest changed completely. Creatures learned to think before saying, "I promise," understanding that those words carried weight and consequence. They learned to say, "I'm not sure I can," or "let me think about it," instead of making promises they weren't certain they could keep. And when promises were broken, because they sometimes still were, because even in a magical forest, everyone is imperfect, the creatures knew what to do. They were honest about what happened. They apologized sincerely. They made genuine efforts to make things right. And they worked to do better next time. The bridge became more than just a way to cross the stream. It became a symbol of the forest's commitment to honest communication, to accountability, and to the beautiful truth that trust, once broken, could be mended with care and become even stronger than before. On quiet evenings, when the sun set in shades of amber and rose, the bridge would glow softly with all its threads, the bright ones of promises kept, and the special, resilient ones of promises mended. And if you looked very closely, you could see that the pattern they made together was more beautiful than either could have been alone, because the bridge had learned what Nella and Lumo taught the forest that day. That perfection isn't about never making mistakes, but about having the courage to face our mistakes, the humility to apologize for them, and the determination to do better. And that bridge, the bridge of broken promises that became the bridge of mended trust, stood strong for generations, holding not just the weight of forest creatures, but the weight of their words, their commitments, and their beautiful, imperfect efforts to mean what they say and say what they mean. This is the end of the story, and we invite you to listen to the next radio play on our channel.